So on a much lighter note then,
Sure.
guess 'cause as the topic of the podcast is, just wanted to ask you about your career. So from what I gather, and you can kind of fill in the gaps, but you left the orphanage, you moved to what do you call it? You moved to
Ladbroke
Grove.
Yeah.
And then I remember you saying that you just felt like you needed to move out of that environment because it was too negative, for want of a better term.
Yeah, for sure.
How did you end up in the sales world? You also mentioned that you were like you used to manage footballers.
Yeah.
I guess which one came first? How did you get into? Well, no, I guess the sales came because I remember you saying you left managing footballers to go to the Bible school. So I'm assuming the sales came first.
Yeah. So in terms of chronology, when I was in Ladbroke Grove, that would have been 1977, and my first job in Ladbroke Grove was working for Intercontinental Hotel in Park Lane, and I was working. It was ridiculous. I was working as an apprentice electrician. It was a joke. I couldn't even change a light bulb, and I had this really big standoff with this guy who was the manager about something that you know I've always had issues with authority and stuff. And anyway, this particular manager wanted me to do something which I didn't think was fair. So I just said to him, I'm not doing that. So he said, well, you either do it or you leave. And I said, well, that's fine, I'll leave then. So we had this locker room where you used to get changed and that. And I remember talking to these Irish guys and they said, what are you doing? And I went, I'm not going to let anybody talk to me like that. Oh, because I'd had some acid in my face, in my eye. It was not massive problem, but I had to go to Moorfields and I came back and then the guy was wanting me to...
Like a on job accident.
On the job accident, right?
Yeah.
And there was no such thing as health and safety in those days. It was like,
is
go back to work. And I'm like, no, it's dangerous. And that's because he wanted me to do something with the acid thing, and I was like, I'm not doing it. So he said, well, you have to get out. So the guy said, so this Irish guy said to me, he said, you need to do what you're told because the fact of the matter is your pride will be a problem for you. And I said, well, I don't care. I'm not doing it. And I realised at 17. I realised at 17 that I really probably wasn't going to be employable because I really don't do well with people telling me what to do. I just don't do well with it. Yeah. So I actually left and went out of there. And then I was kind of wandering around thinking what I'm going to do. And then I found this, it was actually, I don't know if it's even still going, is Capital Radio still a thing?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so Capital Radio used to be at Euston, Warren Street, and they used to have these job boards up, and I went into Capital Radio and I saw this job board for this shop, and I thought, oh, okay. So I took it up, went off and said, anyway, I had the interview and I really got on well with them, and I got this job working in this shop in Chelsea. I loved it, and I was there for, I don't know, I was 17 and a half, and it was a jeans shop. The owners, who were this South African couple, they decided to close the jeans shop down and open this really nice, really smart Chelsea boutique. And it was on the Fulham Road. It was magnificent. And they let the other guys go. The wife came to run the shop. They were Mill Hill people actually, and they came to take the shop over. And I was asked to stay on as the manager, which was like amazing. It was a big leap. And then I became the buyer and all the rest of it. And I was just good at it. I just liked it. So then I got to about, Chantal was born when I was 20. By then I'd moved out of Ladbroke Grove, gone to Enfield, moved out of Enfield, gone to Tottenham to Hornsey, Hornsey to East London. And then Chantal was born, I was back in Ladbroke Grove again. And I decided that I needed to make some money because obviously Chantal...
Yeah, you've now got a family.
I've now got a family. And I guess I must have been about 21, 22. So I went off and got a job at the employment agency, Brook Street Bureau. I was so bad at that. It was ridiculous. I was useless at it. I lasted about 3 months, and they just said to me, and this lady had a really gentle conversation with me. She said, "So how do you think things are going?" And I went, "Yeah, great." And then she went,
"No, it's not."
No, right, you are so crap at this job. It's hard to explain how bad you are. But I'd met this guy who came in because there was a lady that I used to work with in the Hounslow branch. Gosh, I wish you hadn't asked me this because my brain goes off sparking.
Yeah.
And he had come in. He and her were in a relationship, and he came to me one day and he said, "You shouldn't be doing this. You're better than this. You need to come and work for me." So I was about to get fired, and I thought, "Oh, I know. I'll call Roger." So I called him, and it turns out he was in financial services. So I went and left I just managed to leave Brook Street before it left me. Went off to this financial services company, a small little brokerage. This is years ago. This, gosh, since a long while ago, 83 maybe, and started in this career of selling financial services. Well, it was fun, it was all right, and I was all right. I was quite good at it because, of course, I was working for myself. It was an acceptance junkies
dream,
crack then. It was like a nightmare place. So you get medals and badges and cups and applause. It was like great. So I was quite good at that. And then we moved into there was a whole coup, and the management team that I was working for moved out and set up their own brokerage. So they took us all with them, and we had this great excitement and set up this new brokerage in the West End. And then from there, I that lasted a few years, and then I went to work for a company called Schroders, the asset management team, and we set up this really cool sort of. We didn't set it up, but I was part of this thing called the retail financial services. It was really cool. And we had this really neat stuff we used to call our private client stuff. We kind of had invented this really cool little thing we were doing at Schroders, and I can't remember how I got into it, but I had known about the same time I can't even necessarily make all these links now, it feels so long ago. A very close friend of mine is Garth Crooks, and he and I...
How do you know him, by the way?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I think I know Garth... I can't remember I knew Garth before the football or through the charity. I think I might have first met Garth at the charity. At Scar. No, but I knew Garth at Tottenham. Anyway, I can't remember. Yeah. But we've been friends forever. So I was starting, we were running a charity together for sickle cell anemia relief. We were doing some amazing stuff. We were doing all these nice events every year, and it was all fabulous and the rest of it. And of course, I had contacts then that were footballers and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so we started looking after their finances, and then what happened was...
As in, when you say we, is that Schroders or...?
No, so, sorry, that's important. So I left Schroders and we set up... How the hell did I get there? I don't know. Something happened with it. Oh yeah, I know, that's right. I left Schroders eventually. That kind of wound through. I left Schroders when I got divorced.
Okay.
That's right. I knew there's these certain black ice in my head where things I don't recognise. And I went to Legal & General, which I didn't like very much. And then
investment.
Yeah, I hated that. Yeah. I hated that.
I used to work in that. I hated it.
Yeah, it was
working in asset management. My clients were asset managers. I was doing consulting for asset managers. But
oh, really?
I just hated financial services.
Full stop.
Yeah, didn't work for me.
I like the client side, but it got very complicated. Then the Financial Services Act came in, and I was like, really, I don't want to do this. It's much too complicated. Anyway, the point was that we then set up a little intermediary, and we were doing financial services as an intermediary for sports and entertainment people, because that was my client book. Those were the people I knew. And then we started to, so we had some really cool people like Dwight, Yorke, and John Fashanu, and all these sorts of people. And it was really...
Was it because obviously the three footballers you mentioned, all black footballers.
No, that's a good question actually. Ugo Ekiog was another one of our clients. No, they weren't, not at all. Some of them were, but they're the ones that just immediately came to my mind. Yeah. So we had all kinds of different footballers, so black, white didn't make any difference. Yeah. And but what would happen is they were kind of referred one to the other. I remember being one day at one of the Aston Villa players' houses, and Gareth Southgate turned up, and he was one you thought, oh, great to get him as a client. There was something about him even then, and
who he is.
So it's fairly obvious. Anyway, we didn't get him as a client, so. Yeah. But a lot of people started off in those days, and a lot of those people that were insurance sales guys became agents. So like Gary Lineker's pensions advisors has become like one of the biggest agents on the planet. And so we started looking after the players and looking after their contracts and all the rest of it, and just grew. And this little business called Partners in Sport, as it was then, grew up. But then I decided in '95 I was kind of getting I was having this whole paradigm shift around faith and all the rest of it, and decided I didn't want to work in the business world anymore. So I left all that behind. And that business has now gone on. They've got, oh my gosh, it's doing fantastically well. Interestingly, I've just been able to. It's a really quite a nice.
You said you linked your son.
Yeah, I was going to say it's really cool. Yeah. So now they've got. I've kind of connected back with the guy. The guy who was my business partner, because I started the business and then get on with it, and they've done really very well. But now they're setting up a Brazil branch and Paul's going to manage the business in Brazil. So that's kind of, it's really cool. And he's got a whole load of players that they're working with there. But anyway, so then I decided I was going to stop working, going into business and go into Bible school.